Hi,
Hello,
everybody.
everybody.
Hello. Welcome to Farmcraft 2024. I am going to turn it over to Eric because I have tremendously slow internet today. So you're going to hear my voice but not see my face. So I'm Claire LeBeau, NASF Chief Advancement Officer, and Eric, take it away.
Happy to. I'm going to make a quick segue in here and just say, if you've played this year's Farmcraft World already, you know that technological maintenance is key, right? You can't implement technology without maintenance. And right now,
she's
Claire
got the smoke
needs
clouds coming out of her computer.
Just a big red flashing triangle,
Yep.
exclamation point, all of that. So, welcome to the launch. This is going to be the launch of our third regular season challenge. I can't believe we're here already, but before we start, we'll do some quick introductions. So I am Eric Leitner. I am the education content producer for Clever Like Studios, and I'm not going to take up any more time than that. And I'm going to pass things along to Niles. Niles.
Hi, I'm Niles Cole from the U.S. Department of State. I represent the Office of Agricultural Policy, joined by my colleague, Brad Scott. Over to him.
Hi, thanks, Niles. I'm Brad Scott. I'm with the Office of American Spaces, which is a part of the State Department. Great to be here.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brian, also known as Clever Like, head of Clever Like Studios. We build video games and education content, try to make learning fun, and we're the builders of Farmcraft. So why don't we meet our student players here that have been playing Farmcraft? Where are you all coming from?
Let's try again. What was that?
I'm Shay, and I'm from St. Margaret's.
St. Margaret's?
I'm Sada. I'm from St. Margaret's Boys.
I'm Salim, and I'm from Queen's Royal College.
And my name is Akil O'Connor. I'm the adult sponsor / NASS representative. So we have two teams. We have the St. Margaret Wolves and the Queen's Royal Alphas.
From where?
What country are you joining us from?
We're joining from Trinidad and Tobago.
Wow.
Happy to
we
have
are
you today.
absolutely thrilled to have you. It's amazing.
And we have a special guest.
Two teams at the same time joining us. So really excited about that.
And we have a special guest today, John Reed. John, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Reed, and I am the Executive Director of the Center for Digital Agriculture at the University of Illinois. And it's a great pleasure for me to be here to talk with you.
The Director of Digital Agricultural Center at the University of Illinois?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a person that does this? It's amazing. Where has he been all of our season?
Yeah.
So, Eric, I think you have something for us, or is that queued up?
I did. So as we're in the regular season challenges now underway, one of the things the students are responsible for doing as they do this is we offer them certain insights to look into, certain challenges to kind of take on. And we want them to submit video diaries of their progress. And a lot of this is based on like asking themselves questions about what knowledge they're taking away from it and what strategies they would implement, how they would change, and how they're playing together as a team. So we want to take a look at one example. We don't have a lot of time today because we have so much going on, as you can see on the screen. But we want to look at one example of a really excellent example of a video diary submission. So this is from the Pixel Planters, and we're going to take a look at this quick, it's about 2.5-minute video of their very first video diary. So this should give everyone a good insight of what the expectations are, what a good video diary looks like. So let's have a look.
During the first run, we were trying to figure everything out and weren't sure how to be efficient, sustainable, or conservative of money. Our goal was simply to go as fast as possible and keep everything working. We made sure to divide and conquer, but at some points, 2 or more people were needed at specific areas at the same time. Our team strategized by upgrading farms as soon as possible before buying new ones. We also tried to sprint as much as possible and avoid trampling the crops. We originally didn't have a plan for making sure we provided all of the necessary crops. We tried to plant the crops specific to certain areas because we thought they were more important, but in the end, we had all of the crops needed besides posh plums, which are the only crops that could be grown anywhere. We were very low on these and wasted a lot of time planting them at the end when everything else was finished. We later found out how to plant crops strategically so we would finish them all around the same time.
Pests and weeds invade and destroy crops, which isn't in vanilla Minecraft. Similar to real life, the pests only appear in rural farming plots. In regular Minecraft, there is no primary form of money unless you count emeralds. Also, there are automatic modern systems such as drones and computers, and these break down often, requiring maintenance. Crops grown are different and aren't the crops grown in normal Minecraft.
We can improve our score by reducing the time spent stalling for money and by buying enough farms to keep us supplied before upgrading them. Also, we can harvest as soon as the crops are ready and keep an eye on the ones that are growing. We could handle maintenance more quickly, especially on rural farms. We could do this by having someone always present at each farm plot. We could get temperature and light sensors first, because there isn't a clear way to know those statistics. Next, we could get soil sensors, as soil fertilizer is relatively hard to tell also. Water sensors are last priority because it is easy to tell if the plants are watered. We could invest in upgrades on the seed trog, such as hardy crops, growth rate, and high yield. We can make a chart of locations where crops grow so we don't waste time looking for them. It would be a better score if next time we remembered to swap the crop types after harvesting to make sure we don't end up with too much of one kind and not enough of others.
So first question to John, based off of what you heard on this video diary, how closely does this match to your experience with incorporating technology into agriculture?
Yeah, it's a lot of similarities, and thanks for the question. I was just thinking about the idea of understanding where things are and how do you do the operations and what's been completed and where to find things are all challenges when you have large farming operations. And the other aspect that you're talking about is thinking about the needs of plants and how can we provide the right kinds of inputs that result in creating the outcome, which is that's where the profit as well as where the food supply comes from, is creating the outcomes from agriculture. So I think the farmers go through a lot of similar situations as they think through doing their operations every year. And, they have like 4 major steps. They have to plant or prepare the ground. They have to plant, they have to grow the crops, and then they have to have the ability to harvest them to capture the outcome. That's the way they score their points.
And in this case, points being a financial reward.
Yes.
So actually, students joining us from Trinidad and Tobago, do you have a question for John based off of your experience playing the game with the incorporation of technology to automate farming? Oh, looks like we have a technical error. They lost their mic. So we'll go on. Eric, do you want to bring up the game world?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and open up or share the game world. There we are. Brian and I are already in here.
Look at us. We're already
Look at us. This is actually the world we played last time. So we have actually already completed growing the crops. But just to go back to what the Pixel Planters video diary was talking about, they talked about a lot of the strategies, and we were so happy to hear it, that we kind of figured out as we were playing as well, like knowing which crops to plant, knowing what order to unlock things in, which upgrades to do and when. There was so much of that. And a lot of it was around communicating with each other about which things to grow, which things to explore, who needs to be where, who's monitoring what. All of those things are strategies to incorporate. The ultimate goal of all of this is to deliver the crops needed, which is 1,500 of each type of crop in the shortest amount of time. So time is what is going to affect your leaderboard. But we've got rural farms, we've got greenhouse type farms, and of course, we've got indoor urban farms and urban farming areas to unlock and plant in. And so in the interest of guiding these questions over to John, and I think the students are ready to ask a question, I think. We're going to go into one of the urban farms.
What is the balance between labor and automation in the future of farming? And how will this affect farming career opportunities in the future?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Actually, you know, the agriculture has had 100 years of mechanization, and the outcome of that is that we have larger machines in traditional areas that are able to grow the crops, but require fewer and fewer people and fewer passes and operations to the field. So a lot of labor has been taken out to produce a large predominance of crops, in especially commodity crops. But the challenge we have is that we have that where it's been easier to develop a system or process. And so, for example, harvesting corn is something that's highly automated and in a large machine can do a lot of work. But crops like fruits and vegetables and specialty crops, they require a lot of dexterity in order to harvest and manipulate them. And actually, that's a front edge technology today for robotics. And robotics is just now reaching the point where we're starting to see some practical applications of that. And so in these specialty crops, they have challenges with labor availability, getting enough people to help do the work. And that's probably one of the bigger challenges that they have. In terms of questions of where the career opportunities go, is that, well, you know, agriculture is the way that helps us survive. And the career opportunities were made perhaps by having farms with bigger machinery, reduce the amount of labor required on the farm, but it opened up new forms of careers for people. What we're seeing today is that we think about circular bioeconomy and sustainability. Things like urban farms, for example, are in urban agriculture is bringing people and production back together again and creating new career paths and career opportunities for people, but not in the same drudgery that we used to have hundreds of years ago before mechanization took place.
Yeah, we just saw an example of that in the game. You know, we went from before we automate these farms, before we add technology, when the students first unlock these plots, and we go to plant seeds, you'll see farmers kind of planting the farms and walking down, planting each row of crop. But of course, as we get towards automation, and you were mentioning, and actually in one of the preseason challenges, there was a really cool video we included of a robot that was able to carefully pick strawberries, which is not something I thought a robot would ever be able to do. And so we added some of those things sort of into our world development, which you may have just seen the robot going through here and harvesting. Doesn't look quite as delicate as the one I saw in real life, but it's here. But let's jump into some more questions.
Where you live, are there a lot of robotics involvement? Can you give us a specific example?
Sure. I'll give you two examples. This example was just mentioned for strawberry harvesting. These types of things have been taking place for about a couple of decades, starting in Japan. A lot of research, and they're kind of moving forward. But robotics is also being used in taking care of cows and milking cows, where the cows themselves decide when they want to be milked and how frequently, and they go into a milking parlor. And this has taken place for more than 30 years. In production agriculture, machines are highly automated, and it's not completely robotic yet. But when the person's sitting in the machine system, they have a lot of robotic types of functionality of following path plans, doing the operation automatically, optimizing the efficiency, and the person riding in the machine is somewhat as a monitor of the overall process, and just taking care of things that are hard for robotics to do today. And we're starting to see those same machines show up as driverless types of machine systems, where they take the operator out of the cab. So it's kind of exploding everywhere. It's actually been part of my career, is to work on robotics in agriculture and think about how do we solve some of these problems that multiplies the capabilities of the farmers.
What are some challenges for using these agricultural technologies in smaller farms?
Well, on one side, I think digital technologies have applicability widespread, but the utility for smaller farmers is really around the management of their systems and information management that may take place. There are some small robots emerging that are being used for gardening. So, for example, taking care of weeds by a relatively inexpensive type of robotic system. But the challenge is always trying to find that how do you address the needs of the small farmer with systems that are affordable and have the right features and functionality and get the job done for them. And so the place where there's been more advancement is taking advantage of data services, understanding how to grow a crop, and using the information technologies. And you'll start seeing AI and large language models are becoming key because they are providing ways of understanding what's happening through information. And I see your drone flying around there too. That's also something that's very affordable that can be used for mapping out the field and understanding what's taking place without having to walk through the field and do a visual inspection.
How do you see the use of AI playing a role in optimizing resource uses? And also, do you think it will minimize waste within agricultural production systems?
With AI, well, AI, I'll answer both of those questions. We're really this large language model like ChatGPT and other forms of that are becoming really exciting and important to agriculture. We've developed a few systems here that are kind of like one of them is called a crop wizard, that basically you can interrogate it about a plant disease and combine multiple sources, multimodal. It doesn't have to just be a dialogue, but you could be saying, here's something that's happening in my plant. I'm going to take a picture of it, and I'm going to ask the AI what type of problem do I have there. And the real utility of this is that it's able to leverage large databases and information sources that individually we can find this information, but it takes a lot of time to explore and search. And so it actually is even helping, say, extension personnel answer more questions better for the customers that they have in their region. So there's really a lot of exploding utility of understanding specific crops and specific challenges, and how AI can be used to answer questions for the farmer when they need them at that moment, including while they're operating machinery. To your second question about sustainability, the more we've been seeing this exploding of digital technologies, we have so much more information. And historically, we focused on producing the maximum yield. But now we can start seeing some of the negative effects, the detriments, and what happens to the quality of the water when we apply excessive chemicals, what happens to characteristics of the soil with using different tillage practices. And this information, AI does help us kind of sort through this, because agriculture is really a quite complex system of systems. All of these things are integrated together. We have environment and weather, we have the field. If you're in a controlled environment, you have to control all of those things in urban agriculture, for example. So yes, I do believe this will be a really critical aspect of understanding what we want to achieve in circular systems and giving us information sources that help us achieve those goals.
Do you think a system like that could work in Trinidad?
Oh, absolutely. Why not? I mean, you have data on understanding what happens for your farmers and customers, and maybe you deliver it in a different way. This is the beautiful part about the democratization of this, is that people who have access to the internet can ask questions, and those questions can come from data that's from larger sources. And so I think this is really a growing capability that puts information at our fingertips, and not just, random information, but information about specific problems. Many of you may have tried this with some of your smartphones, where you can take a picture of a plant and you get an automatic labeling and identification of it. Well, that's a kind of an AI system in the background that's really helping us understand what's happening and identifying the plant. Well, think about that for farmers that want to understand the disease, an insect problem, or other types of challenges.
And we have that
I
data
love that.
to an extent in the game. Yeah, Claire, you had mentioned, kind of demonstrating what we're happening here. So in the game, one of the very first things that happens after you finish the tutorial is you get this data tablet that I'm holding in my hand in the game right now. And if I use it, if I just keep it in my hand and right click, all of a sudden I get data based on the sensors that I've installed in there to determine if things are optimal. If I go into an area that doesn't have those, or if automation isn't in place, those data levels will be fluctuating, or I won't be able to see them at all. So I'll be totally guessing at what I'm doing instead of using the data to optimize what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, just want to say that these types of things, we have paradigms of what a large farm and a small farm. But when you think about urban agriculture, you have to basically, on a very small scale or on a plot size scale or even a building sized or regional scale, we can think about how to bring these tools together to help us more efficiently produce crops closer to where people want to consume them. And I really like this game is doing this as well, as you're getting people to start becoming more connected to the food systems that help us, live and sustain life. And so that's really pretty cool stuff that you're doing.
We want to give you a free idea here. So our designer comes up with these amazing machines. I'm certain that he's predicting the future, and so he's designed these harvesting robots that may be the future for these students. And here you go.
Oh, that's great.
Those are awesome.
Yes, multi-purpose functional harvesting robots that these kids are going to invent in the future.
Yeah, and they really have the opportunity to not just consider what's been done in the machine forms and systems, but there's this opportunity. The game has lots of modularity in it, but there's an opportunity to rethink how do we solve the problem and do it at scale. So this is really very impressive.
Well, and I think one thing, John, that you pointed out, and then of course the students also ask, can we do this here where we live? And that's one reason why Farmcraft has evolved to the style of play that it is this year, because we have students joining from all around the world, in rural areas, in urban areas, in cities. And everyone wants to know, well, what can I do where I live? How do I grow food where I live? And that's something that we're really trying to tackle and illustrate for these students around the world that are joining. I think we might have another question from our St. Margaret students.
Does the technology you use have issues? Like, how do I put this? Really bad issues?
Really bad issues. Well, okay, technology, I think, as always, you can think of it as being a two-edged sword. It can be used for good or it can be used for bad. And so I don't think that there's anything inherently bad about the technology, but it's how we decide to deploy it and some of those challenges. But also we have, some issues we have that are related to the technology readiness. It really is important to think about that. It's just not using new technology, but you have to be able to use it in a way that's effective for the farmers to get their jobs done, for this to count in agriculture. The weather happens when it happens, and unless it's a controlled environment, you just get like one chance a year to get it right. So some of those kinds of challenges are not bad, but when people don't think about how to make something simple and easy to use, farmers will quickly reject it because it's frustrating. They want to get their job done, and they just will not take time for something that's overly. People haven't thought in the engineering how to make it easy to use. And then there are also some. This is also not a bad thing, but technology has challenges to develop. We wouldn't be talking about AI today if it wasn't for the advancement that has happened in GPUs and embedded compute systems. And so hopefully I answered a question. I'm happy to have a follow-on if you'd like to go into a specific area.
I think they do have one more. Go for it. We have time for one more question from the students, and then we'll go through some details on the game itself. I love the excitement. Thank you, Akil, and your students are fantastic.
Can the AI help in dangerous areas like very elevated areas?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood the question. Can AI work in what kind of areas?
In very elevated areas.
Oh, okay, yes. Well, I can. Well, are you asking about AI or agriculture? Can agriculture work in elevated areas, or can AI?
I'm talking about the AI.
Okay. So AI, yes, well, certainly. I'm not sure of any challenges with that, but maybe from an elevated area, you might have to think about how you do agriculture in a different way. And again, drawing it back to urban agriculture, you have to think about almost everything, the kind of crop and how you grow it. And so the AI would have to be aware of your specific cropping system and how plants are going to get nutrients and water and light and energy to grow. And but very elevated areas. I mean, for example, you see rooftop gardens that are starting to take place on top of buildings. Near Chicago, there's one that's over 75,000 square feet, which is like a city block, and they produce more than 1 million pounds of leafy greens and herbs each year for human consumption. So your elevation is a little bit tricky for me. I'm not sure if you're talking about a slope, that could be challenging for the actual execution, but AI would work fine. Could be the top of a building. It even could be thinking about even in space in the future.
Oh, that's elevated.
Oh, all right. Well, there's an idea for next year.
Wow. Yes.
There you
Bring
go.
it on.
I'm pinning that one. I'm
And
ready.
for space, we better figure out how to do it here first, while we
Yeah,
have
you're right.
real
Like,
benefit, right?
Let's solve our local problems first.
Exactly. What a fantastic conversation. So, as Eric is playing through the world, I will just remind you all that it is not too late to join. You can register to join Farmcraft by April 5th, which is tomorrow. And then we'll have all of your materials and everything you need still available on the website. We set the date based on your having enough time to complete everything before the final due date. So please join us. It is my favorite price tag, which is free. It is free to join. And if you do not have Minecraft, we will provide that to you as well. And that's all handled within the registration process. So I love how you're adding in the comments here. This is like perfect. The chat comments on the fly. So impressive.
Hey, look, communication is key for Farmcraft. So,
absolutely,
he's doing it right.
He's doing a great job. So, Eric, you want to go ahead and walk us through real quick the challenge and then, downloading the file and all those things.
Absolutely. So challenges 1 and 2 are now out. And remember, you can still complete those. The goal is to complete all 3 of those challenges, those video diaries that go with those challenges. All of that is essential to your submission if you want to be eligible. So make sure you're doing that. The last place you saw me looking in the world, that is the urban zone. I wanted to point that out real quick, Claire. So if you could share my screen one more time before we go into the challenge. This is where this this week's challenge is going to take place. Everything you do, with the exception of the tutorial, has to take place in this urban zone. So you got 3 zones, right? You got the rural zone, you got the suburban zone, and you've got the urban zone. And we want as much of your farming as possible, if not all of your farming, to take place in this urban zone. And that is not going to be so easy to accomplish. So let's take a look at the challenge. If we go over to guess which website we're going to here, Claire? Where do we always go?
Oh boy.
It might be nasef.org/farmcraft. Just a guess.
Forever and always. And again, I will always point out the register now button. It's still there. It's not too late. You still got time. It's running out, but you still got time.
Just barely squeak it in.
Just barely, right? I mean, do it today. If you're watching this, do it today. But regular season challenge 1 is still up. If you haven't submitted your video diary, you just saw a good example of that from the Pixel Planter. So high five to the Pixel Planters for really excellent example of a video diary for challenge 1. Challenge 2, those are rolling in. Get those in. It's still there. And of course, now challenge 3 is on the website. So let's take a look at challenge 3 and what the expectation is for challenge 3. Using the latest NASEF Farmcraft map in Minecraft Education, work with your teammates to complete the task of producing the necessary crops to feed your communities. That has been the same the whole time. However, here is the twist. This time, all purchases you make must take place in the urban farms. So let me clarify that. When you first play the game and you get the tutorial, you're sort of automatically purchasing and given a rural farm, an outdoor farm plot. You can use that one. That's fine. That's money we sort of make you spend as part of the process. But all the other money you spend, everything from there to completing the task, has to be made using the urban farms. You can upgrade those farms using the Seedtron and using the upgrades that are in those urban plots, but you cannot do any additional, you can't purchase any other additional plots. You can only purchase the urban plot, the urban plots. Mm-hmm. You cannot purchase any plots in the rural or suburban zones. So here's what to think about while you're doing that. What was most effective about focusing on urban indoor farming? There are some benefits, of course. What was least effective about the strategy? There are some drawbacks. What might a community have no alternative but to use, or maybe we need to reword that sentence a little bit. But why? I said what? Why might a community have no alternative but to use these farming practices? So why do they exist? Why is this sometimes the only choice for certain communities? And how might urban farming be improved in the future? And we included some of that. Brian even mentioned some of that a little bit in this stream. And of course, how do you plan to make urban farming part of your overall strategy? So maybe it won't be your whole strategy, but what part of your strategy is that going to be now that you've really dug into those urban farming practices? Mm-hmm. So those are the questions to focus on. That is the challenge for Challenge 3. Going back to the worlds real quick, though. Since this is the last challenge, and after you've played through some of the things and really developed your strategies, you're also going to want to submit your scores. This is a playthrough that we've already kind of met our goals. And by the way, you know you've met those goals because when you get teleported back to the lab, you see that award come up on the screen. But two, and something to be aware of is, and you may have noticed, and I love that students are being observant. We saw that in the video diary, is on the right on that scoreboard. As you complete the amount you need for each of the crops, they turn green, right? Ooh. So you'll see now our moon melon, our dreamberry, our posh plum, our ring radish, etc. They've all turned green. We've got those. We have our balance, which is our money, and we've got our time. And I will stress this, and you will see this. Time is the ultimate score you are shooting for this time. Yes, balance is important. It shows us how efficient you've been growing your crops and how you've been spending your resources. Yes, your climate score is important, and we're going to treat that like a tiebreaker should we need one, because the teams that did a better job while also having less impact on their climate, that is important. But time is what you want to focus on. So if I want to submit my score, a few things. Once I'm ready, you'll notice it says interact with the lab computer. If I go there, I can click score, which is right over here. This gives me my submittable score. Notice the scoreboard has changed, right? They've been whited out, and there's more information there. There's the balance, there's the time, and there's the climate. But ultimately, time is what we're looking for. And in fact, if I go in here to submit that score, let's go to the form to submit the score. And I'll zoom in on this one so it's a little bit easier to see on our stream here. There we go. If we go here to submit the score, right, we need all the information about your team and what division you're in and so on and where you're joining us from. But there are 3 things to submit. Your time score, which is the time in seconds. It says it right on the scoreboard. Time is the priority and will determine your place on the leaderboard. Lower time is better. Your balance will allow us to determine your efficiency. And again, that just gives us an idea of your strategies, your playthrough, and so on. So we'd love to see it. And then, of course, climate score, and climate will determine your impact on the environment. And this is what's going to act as a tiebreaker. So if we get 2 teams who really, really master this and come in with the exact same time, and they are our top 2 teams, we're going to be looking at that climate score to say, okay, both of you did an amazing job. Both of you grew the crops you needed on time, but one team had a less of an impact on their environment. And that's going to act as the tiebreaker. So if you're wondering exactly what is it my teams should be focusing on, time is key. Balance will help determine your efficiency, and climate is going to act as that tiebreaker to see what kind of effect you had on your climate. Brian, go ahead.
So you're saying time is important?
time is huge. That's why when you're playing the game, that is why it's the one thing you see. You don't see your climate score. Yes, you see your balance because you need to know how much money you have to spend, but that is why you see time ticking up as you're playing, because
show
doing
the
it in
difference.
the least amount of time is the best.
Show the difference between the submittable score and the regular your play ongoing score. Yeah,
sure. So if I go to keep playing, that scoreboard will change back. Let me look somewhere where we can see this nice and clearly. We'll use this wall. But here you can see this is like where time would be ticking. Now we already finished, so time is no longer ticking. But notice all we see is the crops we have, the balance and money we have, and time. When we go to our computer and we do our score to submit, and in fact, if we read this, it says click on the score button to capture a screenshot of your submittable score. So that thing on the right, you're going to get a screenshot of that. It should look like that when you submit it. So if you're seeing what I'm seeing, where it includes climate, where all of the crops have turned white, that is the score. You'll see that score up in the corner. That is what you're submitting to us.
Yep.
So
just
that's
make
what
sure
we want.
you're on that screen.
Yep. And you can actually switch back and forth. So if you don't want to leave this world and you're like, you know what, let's test some strategies out. Let's try some things. Let's see if we can unlock everything and just keep playing. You have that option. In fact, that's what Brian and I were doing during this stream. We just kept playing. It wasn't affecting our time. Our time had stopped. It doesn't affect our submittable score. That gets locked into place. So nothing there has changed.
And I love we've gotten some submissions from the same team a few times. So they played through and then they submitted a score. And then I bet they said, oh, wait a second. What if we did this instead? And so they adjusted their strategy and then they submitted again. That's fine. Yeah. We're more than happy to look at multiple scores. And of course, we're going to use your best one because this is a competition and therefore competitions mean prizes. Possibly my second favorite word next to free. It's free to join and you get prizes. Does it get any better than that? First place in all the divisions will win a $500 Amazon gift card, or if there's a different company where you live, because we know we have people from all over the world, you will get a gift card for that location. Second place is a $250 card. Third place, a $200 card. And then we're going to have 2 random draw winners just for everyone who completes the challenges. They will be entered in a drawing as well. So just really encourage you all, participate. If you've missed the live streams, there's a lot of all of us on that screen right there, isn't it? We have shared a ton of information. So you can go there and see all of those. And then as well, Eric is pointing out here, we've got tons of information for you, the team guide, and then how to record your video on Flip. We get questions on that from people when it's their first year participating. And then of course, there is the world download as well. You want to scroll back up real quick and show where that is, Eric. That's right at the top.
Yeah, we put that.
We know you can't participate without the world. So there it is.
Yep. And in the last stream, we did show how to do that. But there is a guide here that you can download that'll walk you through the process. And then, of course, the download button. And there are 2 versions that you can install in education. One is an MC World file. One is an MC template. And the guide talks about how each of those are different. But ultimately, it's just 2 different ways of installing and running the world.
I'd like to thank everyone who joined our stream today. Students at St. Margaret's Wolves and the Queen's Academy, thank you so much for joining us today. Great questions. And John, thank you so much for walking us through it. That's great explanation. Really appreciate your time and presence today. So.
Fantastic. Thank you all for being here. And we can't wait to see your video diaries. We're going to be looking.